वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Okay, so now we are moving to chapter 2. So Shantala will chant 4 sutras that we are going to do from chapter 2. Do you want to learn how to chant? Yes? Okay. You want to everything in 2 days, including samadhi, moksha, everything in 2 days. Bliss, everything in 2 days. Okay. Okay.
I'll just explain one rule because it's too complicated to just only here. The first sutra, tapas swadhyaya, and we chant Ishwara pranidhanani, which becomes swadhyayeshwara pranidhanani. It may sound confusing while chanting, so I'm just pointing it out first. Tapaswadhyaya Ishwara pranidhanani Kriya yogaha Tapaswadhyayeshwara pranidhanani Kriya yogaha Tapaswadhyayeshwara pranidhanani Kriya yogaha Tapaswadhyayeshwara pranidhanani Kriya yogaha. Two more times. Tapaswadhyayeshwara pranidhanani Kriya yogaha. Tapaswadhyayeshwara pranidhanani Kriya yogaha. Samadhi bhavanathaha kleshatanu karanarthascha samadhi bhavanarthah kleshatanu karanarthascha Samadhi bhavanartham kleshatanu karanarthascha Samadhi bhavanarthah kleshatanu karanarthascha Samadhi bhavanartham kleshatanu karanarthascha Yoganganushthanat Ashuddhikshaye Jnanadiptir Avivekakhyate Yoganganushthanadashuddhikshaye Yoganganushthanadashuddhikshaye ज्ञानदीप्तिराविवेकख्यातेः
ज्ञानदीप्तिराविवेकख्यातेः
योगाङ्गानुष्ठानादशुद्धिक्षये ज्ञानदीप्तिराविवेकख्यातेः
योगाङ्गानुष्ठानादशुद्धिक्षये ज्ञानदीप्तिराविवेकख्यातेः योगाङ्गानुष्ठानादशुद्धिक्षये ज्ञानदीप्तिराविवेकख्यातेः योगाङ्गानुष्ठानादशुद्धिक्षये ज्ञानदीप्तिराविवेकख्यातेः
यमनियमासना
यमनियमासना
प्राणायाम प्रत्याहारा
प्राणायाम प्रत्याहारा
धारणा
धारणा
ध्यान समाधयोष्टावङ्गानि
ध्यान समाधयोष्टावङ्गानि
यमनियमासन प्राणायाम प्रत्याहारा
यमनियमासन प्राणायाम प्रत्याहारा
धारणा
धारणा
ध्यान समाधयोष्टावङ्गानि
ध्यान समाधयोष्टावङ्गानि
यमनियमासन प्राणायाम प्रत्याहार धारणा ध्यान समाधयोष्टावङ्गानि
यमनियमासन प्राणायाम प्रत्याहार धारणा ध्यान समाधयोष्टावङ्गानि यमनियमासन प्राणायाम प्रत्याहार धारणा ध्यान समाधयोष्टावङ्गानि
One last time.
यमनियमासन प्राणायाम प्रत्याहार धारणा ध्यान समाधयोष्टावङ्गानि Okay. See why I want you all to learn how to chant? You have to be alert. No? It's not easy to... Even I'm struggling. Don't worry. Okay. So now we have seen what is klishta and what is aklishta. Now, chapter 2, we only could select a few. So, what we have selected from chapter 2 is the first one. Now, tell me, in the grand scheme of things, okay, we have already, in some ways, talked about what? The end. We have talked about the means. We have also talked about the preparation. This klishta, aklishta was more like a preparation, right? Do you agree with me? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, the preparation is not just klishta and aklishta. There is a lot more things that one needs for preparation of the mind for understanding your true nature. So, the second chapter, first verse, talks about further preparation. Okay? That is beautiful verse, sutra, which says, tapaha swadhyaya Ishwara pranidhanani. is what he calls Kriya Yoga. Okay. So that means if you want to choose some actions, right, application, who was talking about preparation, application, you want to do things. So what are the certain things that you can use your free will to do in order to again prepare yourself for the knowledge. The first one is what, so Kriya Yoga is that which will help you to gain the end, which is your freedom, by what removing the ignorance is what we call tapaha, by preparing the mind and living differently. What is tapaha? All of us have heard of tapas, right? Do you have any idea of the Sanskrit word tapas?
It's heat.
Huh?
Heat. Fire.
No. That is true. It could be that tapa. It's hypnosis. That's true. The root meaning has this. One of the meanings is heat. But here it cannot be by my action I could be producing heat, right? So in this case, it has to be certain disciplines that I follow, right? Here it has the meaning of discipline. Certain disciplines that I follow, and those disciplines I have to become a little faster because I have to finish many things, right? So those disciplines, what do you think are, okay, let me just involve you. So what do you think are certain disciplines that are necessary for you, both the body and the mind, to have a certain, it's not running like some wild horses, right? So what are the disciplines? What do you think could be the disciplines, tapas? Can you give me some examples of how would you discipline yourself? How would you discipline your mind?
Karma yoga, meditation, prayer.
No, but here, Ishwara pranidhanani is slightly different. Here we are talking about just certain disciplines. Karma yoga, yeah, exactly. But what would you do?
To have a goal and to go for it.
Yeah, can you give me some examples? Okay, that is coming slightly later, but it's true. It's true, right? That is, as you saw when we were chanting, it is all coming a little bit later. But
Get up.
wonderful. Just give me some practical examples of disciplines. Superb, right? So what are the simple tapas, how you begin to bring discipline in your life, right? So what she's saying is what, the first thing is what, get up early in the morning. That's a discipline. Why? Because the human tendency is to what? Sleep till late. So I was giving a class for kids, right? And these kids, the parents send them. So that means it's not that they have decided to come, it's the parents who send them. So after, so I had fun with them because, I engaged with them, I asked them a few things, I made them think about a few things, so they enjoyed with me. So later on, at the time of the feedback came, I said, so how did you like my workshop? So they said, oh, we loved it, except for one thing. So I said, what? It was too early in the morning. And you know what time it was? It's starting 11. So this is what he's saying. So why this tapas? Let's come to simple things like, bringing some discipline to your life. So therefore, getting up early, what do you think? Why do you think that that's important? Now let's not write. These are too small things. We need not waste the space for that. Why do you think getting up early in the morning is important? Why do you think? What difference does it make whether you get up at 11 or 6?
The atmosphere, it's silent, it's the light is tempered, sensory aspect.
The mind is not so fast running.
Mind is
The
not
mind
so
is not
fast.
so fast in the morning.
Oh, okay.
You connect with nature, and nature is starting up, so it's good. Feel the connection with nature.
You used the word sattvic some time back. It's a light practice. So it's waking up early creates, adds to the feeling of lightness.
Overcoming likes and dislikes.
Overcoming
Likes and dislikes.
likes and dislikes. Oh, that's interesting. It's true, because everybody's like is to kind of, stay a little longer in the bed, and that's interesting. Yeah, that's true.
Overcoming laziness.
Yeah, overcoming laziness. True. You had something else, Tonya?
Yeah, it also it has to do with the biorhythm, and it's much easier to meditate in the morning. You have it like.
So that means there are some subtle parts and some very practical parts to the whole thing, right? That the morning time it's a subtler time where you are, maybe quieter, and it's in keeping with biorhythms, and how all the which bird wakes up at 12? Generally, they all wake up with the sunrise, right? And unless they are nocturnal animals and nocturnal, but mostly they all get up. So there is a natural rhythm, and your sensitivity to that natural rhythm it makes the mind a little sensitive, right? So that means these are the disciplines which enable you to come out of your own shell of realities and go out there and be a little bit in harmony with the nature and the world. It's a subtle thing, but it's an important thing. Then it also has a very important part, and that is what as Dara described, and that the like is always for sleeping little longer, right? And to overcome that, how will I overcome my likes and dislikes in general? By doing these small things, right? These small things, we think they are small, but they matter a lot, because small things actually make you the accumulation of small things make you a person, right? So that is why bringing about these small changes are important if you want to prepare yourself for this knowledge. Yeah. The other thing which is very important, which is talked about in Vedic tradition, and that is, that sensitivity that our teacher used to always talk about, that the sun is a blessing, right? Sun does so much for us, and the whole idea is you get up before the sunrise and you welcome the sun. So you don't take the existence of sun for granted and the blessing that the sun is for granted. That is also going to make you a person who begins to see that, hey, is this whole universe that you have you don't even think about, is designed in a way that is so benevolent, and it is so many forces are working to make your life possible, right? And that kind of a mind which is able to see, right, the waters, the sun, the contribution of all these different things in their life, it makes you a person who is coming out of one's dissatisfaction and begin to have gratitude and sensitivities. See, you don't just overnight become a sensitive person. You have to work for it. You don't overnight change from your dissatisfaction to this person who's grateful. You need to find what we call practices in your daily. You need to incorporate certain practices in your daily life to bring about this transformation. So therefore, one of the tapas is getting up in the morning. Somebody else said something about food. Who said something about food? You said, okay. How is food? What is this food discipline that we are talking about?
Well, eat healthy food and not too much, not too less.
Excellent, right? So that means, again, the tendency is to eat what you like and too much also. And your ability to restrict and say, okay, now actually this is enough for me. After that, it is only gluttony. I'm just eating because of I'm greedy in some ways. It's not something that the body needs. Your ability to observe that. See, these are small things which will make you this person who's aware. Awareness, that sensitivity doesn't just come overnight. You need to cultivate it. And then yesterday, Tobias was saying that he has all these food disciplines, which it's very good, excellent. He says he doesn't eat after 6. So yesterday he didn't eat any dinner because he doesn't eat after 6. He says after that the digestion system is not working so well. It requires a lot of discipline to go out for dinner and then refrain from food. It's not easy, right? No, but that's a discipline, right? It requires a certain willpower. And then he was talking about fasting, right? So the fasting practices are also they have certain cleansing effects on your body. At the same time, they increase your willpower. They have a lot of different effects, right? Also, they work on your likes and dislikes, what you want to do, and you have to, little bit restrain it. That is something which is useful for you to prepare yourself, right? Yeah.
One question is the part on restrain yourself, or that that it's difficult for you to do it. Is it important? I mean, if you do things just because you do them and it's easy for you, is it still tapas?
Okay, okay, wonderful. So now, over a period of time, this is a good question, right? Over a period of time, what you want to achieve is all these wonderful habits, they become not difficult, right? Because then you find yourself in harmony. You are sensitive enough that it becomes effortless. Initially, it takes an effort because nobody is born with all these wonderful qualities and sensitivities and gratitude and everything. So that means you have to work for it. But it is not like you have to give yourself a hard time and only then it becomes a tapas. Do you understand? Otherwise, actually in Bhagavad Gita, they talk about Lord Krishna talks about tamasic tapas. What is tamasic tapas? You do certain disciplines to just beat yourself up. That is not called tapas, right? So what it means is, suppose you don't eat for I don't know how many days, right? And then it becomes what you are actually harming yourself. So this is why we say that, in the name, in India now it's very, very common, right? So now there are these 9 days of Navaratri where we worship all the 3 Devis. So these are the traditional days for fasting, right? Now, these, and that's actually a religious fast where you are actually, trying to develop certain willpower, certain discipline in you. Then there are a lot of women who do it for slimming down. So that means that tapas has become which tapas? Is it really helping you to grow in it? It just has a different goal altogether. Suppose you are so frightened of not gaining weight and you totally keep on depriving yourself of any food, and does it remain? It becomes an abuse after a certain point of your system. So that becomes tapas. So by tapas, if you think giving yourself hard time is a tapas, please take out this definition. That it becomes tapas only when I have to, Tapas is actually a very benign, a very a beautiful activity through which you are trying to be in harmony with the forces and develop certain sensitivities, right? That is meant by tapas, not to just kind of, refraining unnecessarily and living a very, there is a word for it, right?
Austere life.
Austere life. Please don't think that it actually, so in winters and when it's really cold, you sleep on a cold floor and you say, I'm doing tapas, right? You are just inviting the diseases. So don't exalt things unnecessarily, right? So tapas, the idea is to be more in harmony and living intelligently and becoming more aware rather than giving yourself a hard time. Yeah? There is one more tapas which we talk about, and that tapas is what we call vak tapas. Vak tapas means what? It is a big discipline. Speech. Speech means, the speech, they say, what is the devata, what is the deity which governs the speech? Fire, Agni. Wonderful. True. The answer is right. Agni, fire. Yeah? Now, so why does the fire is the deity of speech? Fire does two jobs. One is what? It throws light, and the other one is what? It burns. So that means your speech can either burn, what? Destroy things, or it can throw light. Understand? So that means this, how much you speak, what you speak, you make sure that you have thought through things before you actually, begin to speak about it, right? Things about which you are not too sure and you pretend as though I'm sure. It's all unnecessary, right? So therefore, it all just comes from your need to prove something. It doesn't come from any truth. So therefore, this vak tapas is a very big tapas. Showing off all is not necessary. Showing off your knowledge of Sanskrit, where actually I've come to communicate, is not necessary, right? So that keeping that wisdom, why am I speaking? What is the purpose, right? If it can help somebody, if I'm throwing light on somebody, if it is something which is useful for somebody, if it is pleasing to somebody, then I speak. Otherwise, things which are just come out of me unnecessarily hurt people, misguide people. And if you can refrain from that, that is what we call vak tapas. So there are certain rules, Vedic rules, which I will not go into because it becomes too much afterwards. There is just, I hear somebody.
Yeah, we were wondering how to spell this vak tapas.
Oh, vak. Okay.
Thank you.
What is it?
Nine.
V-A-K at the beginning.
A, yeah,
V-A-K.
Right.
9, 1.
Vak.
As it's,
Okay. So vak tapas. Okay, so this is why this is an ocean of knowledge. You can go on and on and on talking about it.
Yeah.
I can talk about the whole thing for I don't know how long, but I have to stop at some point. But I just want to give you some ideas as to practical ideas as to what is tapas. How do you begin to discipline yourself, right?
I saw a very nice advertising one program here, or was it here? This non-violent communication.
Yeah.
It is one form of vak tapas. With this Marshall Rosenberg, non-violent communication. If you have an occasion to go into that.
What?
Except
This is in car.
Okay, there is a, right, Shantala? It is a consonant ending, right? Not vaka, it's vak. Yeah. So when you make it vaka, now I'm a teacher. So this includes ka consonant plus akara. Okay, forget it.
Continue.
I'm over enthusiastic. This is not the topic here. Okay. The second one is what we call swadhyaya. Tapas is, you got the idea what discipline means and what's the idea of discipline? Swadhyaya, by that, what Patanjali means is, adhyaya means what? The study. And swadhyaya typically means study of your own Vedas. So that means the study of the Veda is not some one-time thing. It's not like you come for 2-day seminar and then you expect, oh, I'll understand everything about my true nature and about the world and about the universe and how to behave and all the things, how to use my mind effectively. What it requires is what? A constant study. Even in, so that means you have to regularly keep in touch. So that means what happens is the way we think is so different from what the Vedas are trying to tell us, right? And the way we, not only we think, the way we live, the decisions that we make, the self-image we have, the emotional life we have, everything is based on our vision of ourselves that I am small and insignificant. And what Vedanta is saying and yoga is saying is that you are the whole. So that means to move to that as, it's not like one time you hear and then you start, so it requires a constant contemplation. So that's why many things I can only teach you as a teacher. Later on, you have to reflect. You need to think about it, right? So in any discipline, what they say is to gain a mastery of any discipline, you need about 10,000 hours of that discipline. So that means 10,000 hours means you can think about how much commitment is required to gain certain mastery over any subject that you want to study. So now suppose you want to study such a big subject of what's my true nature, which is a very fundamental question, right? And what is the source of my freedom? And all of this requires what the Patanjali says is you're studying and keeping in touch and seeing again and again and again what it is saying and reflecting on it. Now the Swadhyaya itself, we further divide. It has 3 different components. I will not take too much time, but I have to do it. Okay. There are 3 things that are meant by what we call Shravanam, Mananam. Have you heard these words?
Yes.
And Nididhyasanam. Oh, good. You heard the words, so my job is easy. What does Shravanam mean? Listening. Okay. So again, as I told you, Shravanam cannot mean only listening, because you can listen to anything, right? 3 different teachers will say, I'm teaching Veda, and say whatever, and you just keep listening, and you will only get confused, right? So listening requires it's a little bit more technical than Shravanam. Meaning is little more technical than just listening. Listening, yes, but listening with what intention?
With no concept.
Huh?
Open-minded listening with no concept.
Yeah.
Behind.
Exactly. So what the listening, what the way they define it is listening with the intention of trying to find out what the text says. If your intention is to find out what the text says, you will pay a lot of attention to what you think. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you see that? The minute, we all come with millions of ideas, and those millions of ideas are going to interfere with what you have to learn. But if you say, my intention here is not to conform my own ideas, my intention is to understand what the teacher or the text is showing, what will naturally happen is what? You will put your own ideas aside. You always have them. You can always refer to them later. While you are there, your purpose is not to bring out all these ideas and not listen to the teacher. You can tell yourself, yes, I have these ideas. I will think about it, right? But let me now try to see what is being said. Then you automatically become open. Otherwise, no teacher can open you or put anything in your head if you are not open. Not possible. So therefore, Shravanam is a technical word. In Sanskrit, it is saying what the whole purpose of listening is what? Tatparya Nishchaya. Beautiful word. Tatparya Nishchaya. The purpose of listening, when I am sitting to listen, I want to ascertain, Nishchaya is ascertain, what is the intention of the book. When my shift is what the book is trying to say, then what I think automatically takes a secondary place. Otherwise, so many people, what I think is at the center, and what you listen is just kind of you want to fit into what you think. This is the biggest problem for learning. Because you don't want to give up what you think, you want everything to fit into what you think. And what you think happens to be not true. Problem. So therefore, this is what we call Shravanam doesn't mean listening, it means Tatparya Nishchaya. Listening with this intent of finding out what the text says rather than what I think. Yeah? Now, Mananam. Suppose the text says something different than what I think, then the second thing is required, which is what? Mananam. What is Mananam?
Thinking about.
So removing doubts. Right? It's called removing doubts. Because what I think is differing from what the text thinks, you need to reflect on it. Right? And remove your doubts. And find appropriate logic to say, hey, my God, that's true. What I see is not really supported by logic, but what here is said is something which logically not contradictable. Then what happens? You begin to give up your ideas. Otherwise, you stick to your ideas. Without mananam, you stick to your ideas. Okay. Third, nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam is what we call contemplation. What is contemplation? Contemplation means, suppose, right, now you have removed many doubts that you had, and you also understand that the Vedas are trying to tell me that I'm already free. And I had so many doubts about me being small because of a certain reason, and I've removed my doubts, but there is whole orientation of the past, which is from many, many janmas, where we are used to acting, thinking, feeling like small. That smallness is so deeply ingrained in us. And that's why we keep feeling, yesterday I was talking to him, is that we keep feeling as if we have to do something to give up this smallness. Because that smallness has become such an integral part of your self-identity. So that means nididhyasanam is let the teaching take certain roots. Let this reality that you understand be so well assimilated that when you act in this world, it is not out of this small, frightened individual who is not trusting the universe, who's feeling miserable. It has to change. That is that practice of seeing this reality again and again and again and reorienting my patterns of thinking which run for so many. So if you take this lifetime, 40, 50 years, if you take Vedic view, it is for lifetimes. So that is what we call nididhyasana. So therefore, Swadhyaya doesn't mean you just keep listening. You have to do this work. Right? It's not enough to say, oh, this one is saying this and that one is saying this and this one is saying this. It's very important for you to recognize what makes sense. If you don't basically sit with yourself and go into certain depth, you'll always be, and you'll be running from one person to the other. What makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Let me look into my thinking. Does it? What am I subscribed to? What I'm so attached to? What are the logical explanations that I have to support my view? Only then you will begin to slowly, all of this will start going. Yeah? So this is what we call Swadhyaya. Very important. Listening again and again and again and again to Vedas, right? And seeing yourself through the eyes of the Veda. And letting that Vedic vision become your own vision of yourself. It's not like Veda is saying it and I kind of think it's okay. This is what I see. about myself. That is what we call knowledge. You used the Veda as a pramana, used these words, reflected on them, removed doubts, change your orientation so that the reality that the Vedas are showing becomes your truth about yourself. This is why the whole pursuit, I keep telling you, is not about Vedanta or is about yoga or about Sankhya or about Buddhism. It's not about this Swami or this Swamini or this. It's about you. Don't forget that. The pursuit is you, and your interest is in understanding your true nature. That is at the center. And you have to have that discernment to see who's making you see yourself clearly. Without any doubt, without any vagueness, without any jargons, without any whole big thing of this academic things, just makes you see who you are. So therefore, this is what we call Swadhyaya. Yeah? Next, Ishwara Pranidhanani. What is Ishwara? Yeah, Anya.
I wonder if you could briefly explain the translation of the family Veda, studying of family.
Okay, superb, excellent. So that's true. Swa Adhyaya means, see, initially this is a cultural context because in traditional Vedic society in India, each family had their own Veda. So this is why. So when in fact many now in South India they will introduce themselves as I'm Yajurvedi and I'm a Rigvedi. Ask Shantala. She's a South Indian Brahmin.
And not only that, they will see which branch of the Veda.
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
further.
Krishna Yajurveda,
Krishna Yajurveda. So that means their family has carried forward what the studying and chanting and all from the same Vedas, and you take it, you continue with it. So that is meant by Swadhyaya. But here we generally, now even in North India where I come from, the tradition is lost. I'm also a Brahmin. People ask me which is Swadhyaya. I have no idea. I don't come from that traditional background. So I don't know. But any one is fine. But this is that is the meaning of Swadhyaya. But what is important is, suppose you say that, oh, I'm studying, suppose she's studying Yajurveda and I'm studying Rigveda, that is within my family tradition, the nature of reality, can it change? Right? So no matter which Veda you are studying, is showing you the same reality. What the beauty is, the same reality is shown in so many different ways so that your mind begins to open up. Right? Same reality, suppose I show you the other way and you are given only this meaning. What it will do is, it will open up your mind to see it from this angle and it will improve your understanding. Good question. Ishwara Pranidhanani. Now, what is this Ishwara? So Ishwara is a very big topic. So Surya, tell me, don't everything, if you try to explain, it will be, so I have to restrict myself. What I do want you to know is that the Vedic vision of Ishwara is not one entity, right? The Vedic vision of Ishwara, as we define Ishwara, is Sarvajnaha Sarvashaktiman Ishwara. What does it mean? Sarvajnaha. And Sarvashaktiman. Sarvajnaha means all knowledge. Yeah, that that which has all knowledge, and that which has what? All power. Now, you may imagine, if I just explain to you this, you said, okay, I have this little knowledge and little power about things. There must be one uncle out there who has what? All knowledge and all power, using which he created this world. But that's not really what Vedic definition of Ishwara is. What it makes you see is that there is this knowledge and power which is what? Everywhere in this universe. So if you look at the body that you have, right? Suppose I tell you, okay, give me all the names of all different organs that you have. Who will be able to do it? Nobody. And still these organs are there. And not only these organs are there, they are all very intricately put together and very intricately designed to make your body do what it is doing now. Right? So that means right now you are able to see me, you are able to hear me, you are able to process what I am saying through your mind. Hundreds of activities are happening. And if I ask you exactly explain how your neurons are firing and so to enable you to understand, will you be able to explain to me? No. So, but they are still firing, right, to enable you to understand. So that intelligence which is enabling all these functions, where is it? Is it something out there, or it is, where is it? In your body, right, which is making everything work. And not only it is in your body, it's in my body, it is also in every other body. It's not confined to any given place, right? It's not only in, only people who are in this room, this intelligence. The outside you go, every human being, every animal, every aquatic creature, every insect, right? All the different bodies, the design, how the organs are placed, what is the range that they are given. It's all a work. Nobody can claim that I did it. But if you begin to look at the intricacies of this design, it's mind-boggling. I had last year I was invited to Sydney, to Australia, to give a talk on Brihadaranyaka. And it is interesting because people, when they don't know exactly what Vedanta thinks, they think Advaita Vedanta means no Ishwara. They think that's not true, right? Means Advaita means I'm everything. Where is Ishwara? Ishwara is, So they think like that. So he thought that I am going to teach the same. So he had taken me to aquarium, and he was a neuroscientist. And he took me to an aquarium, and he was showing me these different fishes. And it was interesting. Each fish had what they showed the anatomy of the fish. They have exactly the same organs as us. It has its own spine, it has its own kidney, it has its own, but in a different shape, in a different, totally different configuration. And he kept telling me, he says, he's a neuroscientist, and he says, this is an amazing design. It's not possible that it has just come. And then, when he heard my explanation of Ishwara, he was so relieved that I'm not negating what the presence of Ishwara. Ishwara is the reality everywhere. The intelligence which makes your body what it is, your mind what it is, the sun, the moon, the planets, the laws, which are what the physical laws, the biological laws, the anatomical laws, the whole thing, all coordinated. That intelligence is called Ishwara. So that means we find ourselves within this universe, which is not a mechanical universe, it's not an unfair universe, it's not a random universe, it's a universe which is governed by very intricate intelligence which manifests as so many different laws in the universe. Now, this intelligence is not only manifesting, which is what we call Ishwara, the Sarvajnaha and Sarvashaktiman. The Shakti that Ishwara has is twofold. One is what? To create this whole universe with all of us in it, with all the laws, which is what we call which Vikshepa Shakti. There are some technical things which I will not. The other thing is what we call Avarana Shakti. What is Avarana Shakti? Suppose we all knew that all that is here is Ishvara, and my true nature is this non-changing awareness. Well, will we have problem? No. So that means in the manifestation, not only there is manifestation, there is a capacity, the Shakti is to what? Cover this reality for me. So that means intelligence is everywhere, and I think I have to search for Ishvara. My nature is already free from everything, and I'm still caught in a framework where I think I'm small, insignificant, inadequate. So that means in this Shakti, not only there is a capacity to project the whole universe, the reality is what? Covered from my understanding. So the second Shakti is what we call Avarana Shakti. This Avarana Shakti, this cover that I have, because of which I live with ignorance, right? Yesterday we saw, when did the ignorance begin? What did we see? The answer was Anadi. Who said? Great, Anadi. Very good, excellent. So the ignorance has no beginning because it comes with that projection. Do you understand why? Because when the universe is manifested, it comes with that cover where nobody knows their true nature, nobody knows the existence of Ishvara, nobody, and they start, because of that ignorance, they start taking themselves as this small individual. And the story gets further complicated because on that smallness, you further load it with all kinds of things. I'm jealous, I'm no good, the world is bad. All these are further additions that we make to the original feeling of smallness. So therefore, this Avarana Shakti, which is a Shakti of Ishvara, now tell me, if I want to remove this veil for myself so that I can see the so that I can have the clear vision of myself, whose help do I need? I need Ishvara's help. If it was entirely up to you to remove the veil, the very first second that you entered into the class, you will what? Remove the veil. You have to recognize that you can only try, but finally, when that veil is lifted and that vision becomes your vision, it's not entirely up to you. Yes, it is a function of your effort, it is a function of your growth, it's a function of how well you take care of your klishta, all this, your abilities, how do you use them well. It is a function of your effort, of course, but it also is a function of what? Ishvara's place. You can't forget that. Narayana. You need grace. Narayana. Not this Narayana, the real Narayana. He is also one of the manifestations of Narayana. Right? Narasya Ayana. Beautiful. All this, if a Nara, a Purusha, wants to know the reality, what is the final refuge? That is Ishvara, Narayana. The meaning, of the word Narayana shows that. Sanskrit is a beautiful language. The words themselves give the meaning, profound meanings. So therefore, what that you need the grace. Yes.
I think also everything I do, all my preparations, is also to the grace of Ishwara. That I have the opportunity to even prepare.
Superb. Really? Absolutely. Right? Now, it's absolutely. What is the probability that among all these people you'll meet a teacher who knows the reality? If you really think statistically, what is the probability among how many people are there in this universe, in this world, Earth? How many? About 7 billion? 7, 8 billion. So if you look at statistically, what is the probability of your meeting somebody who understands what is being talked about, and not only understands, is able to explain to you clearly who you are?
We have to know how many teachers are there.
Exactly. Even that you don't know. Right? So that means, as Holger is saying, even to calculate the probability, you first need to know how many teachers are there. You also need to know how many of them have really understood and how many of them have not understood. Right? And then, how will you know that? Tell me. So that means there are so many unknowns, and still it happens that you meet somebody. Ishwara. Don't think, you may think that you have decided to come here because this weekend anyway I have nothing else to do, so let's come to this yoga camp. Hey, it requires a lot of grace before you get to hear a teaching which is unadulterated by human thought. Somebody who's able to not interfere with the vision of the Veda and just transfer you what the Vedas are saying without thinking, I'm too smart, let me try to fix the Vedas and let me tell you what I think. So therefore, what is this Ishwara Anugraha is needed all the way in the pursuit. Without Ishwara Anugraha, there is no start, there is no end, and there is no beginning. Because, come back, you can only get to know things through your own pramana, which is what? Pratyaksha and Anumana. Now you need to ask, where did Veda come from?
Ishwara.
Wonderful. Super. The same intelligence which manifests the whole universe and covers also gives you the key to uncover. So therefore, even the authorship of Veda is not a human being, it is Ishwara. This is why you can't mess with it. So therefore, because if you mess with it, you are restrained by your pratyaksha and anumana, which is so incomplete. Gudrun was saying, she is very clever. She was telling, I'm getting confused. So that's how she talks, but she is very clever. So I said, oh, why Gudrun? Why are you so confused? So she says, yeah, when you talk about knowledge and when you talk about this yellow flower, I'm a little confused because if I really think about the flower, does it really have yellowness? So then she has a point, right? She does have a point. Very good point, actually. Very thinking, discerning human being. Because actually in reality is nothing but atoms. It's true. What she's saying is right. and atoms have no yellowness. So therefore, but provisionally, yes, there is a flower, and right now it's more yellow than orange. That is also a fact, relatively. So therefore, you need what? With your perception and inference, you are restrained. And this knowledge, so from the beginning, in the middle, and the end, it's all about Ishwara. The knowledge, the Vedas, about Narayana. Right? Narasya Ayanana. Okay, so that means the beginning is why, because the Vedas are from Ishwara. That you find a teacher who knows what the Vedas are really talking about and is able to convey to you what the Vedas are talking about is also Ishwara, possibility. That you understand by preparing yourself adequately, and then the cover is lifted. That also requires what? Ishwara. You need to understand that. So therefore, this Ishwara pranidhanani is not a small thing. It's not like, yeah, just do bhajan, or just surrender to Ishwara. Who is Ishwara? What surrender means? You need to understand. The whole knowledge is from Ishwara. The adequate teacher, the probability of meeting is very low, and still you happen to meet somebody like that. Ishwara grace. That you can use this teaching intelligently to help yourself and give up your resistance and see yourself in a true light and begin to prepare yourself, grace of Ishwara. And that finally the veil is lifted and you see your true nature as it is described in the Vedas. There is no difference between what you see and what Vedas say. Ishwara Anugraha. Until then, it only is your reputation. I'm the whole, I'm free, I'm unchanging. This is what you keep saying, but it's not your vision. It's not how you see yourself. You buy the picture of Vedas because it makes sense. There is a difference. Do you see that? It makes sense and it seems to be anyway something that I want. And it makes sense. So wonderful. But it is not yet your vision. So therefore, this is what we call Ishwara Anugraha. Now, somebody will ask, how do you know whether the veil is lifted or not? When the veil is lifted, you see this reality as clear as the daylight. It's not like, oh, what was it? How is this? And all this doesn't happen. It's the truth that you see, and that nobody can take it away. So that's what you need, Ishwara Anugraha. Okay? Now, next sutra. Yes.
I have a question. Is this a practice? I don't know. You practice this pranidhana.
Yeah. So that means as a practice. Very good. Very good question. These are all practices. How do you? This is a fact about Ishwara. That the knowledge is from there. Then the teacher comes from Ishwara. The final veil is lifted by Ishwara. But what does practice of bringing Ishwara in your life, what does it mean? Very good question. Did you understand her question? Because one thing is seeing it all as Ishwara's grace, but what is here we are talking about Kriya Yoga. And it means a certain practices. So by which practice will I bring the understanding of Ishvara in my life? Good question. Very good question. Answer. Come on.
Karma Yoga?
Excellent. Very good. Very good. What is Karma Yoga? Can you explain to me?
You have a free will to do anything you want, but that the result is not up to you, it's to Ishwara. And also, and before that, that even the way that you think that you act is Ishwara's act.
Okay.
You are not the doer.
Yeah, you know.
See, that's what I'm saying. While you don't know the nature of I, you can't pretend you're not the doer. You see what I mean?
Okay.
See, this is where the teaching has to be taken very, very cleverly, because it's not like, you behave as though you're this awareness. That is not, while you're preparing, your mind has to be clear. Right now I think of myself as an individual. I want to get to the point where I want to see myself, and right now I'm preparing myself. Otherwise what happens, the confusion happens. You start living as though you are this unchanging awareness that actually you haven't understood. When you do that, you don't prepare yourself. Do you see that?
Karma Yoga is everything I do for Ishwara.
Okay, so then can I say then that, I'm going to murder somebody, but I'm going to do it for Ishwara?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Not only,
Yeah.
It's according to Dharma.
Excellent. Ishwara as Dharma. The intelligence that is there, right, which is manifesting in this universe, one of the expressions of that intelligence is what? Dharma. Excellent. Dharma, Karma Yoga, when I choose my actions, I choose what? I take into account Dharma. Why? Because Dharma is one of the manifestations of Ishwara. Very good. In my choice of action, I take into account Dharma, because Dharma itself is what? An expression of Ishvara. The intelligence manifests, which makes you recognize. What is Dharma? Which makes you recognize, I don't want to be hurt, and others also don't want to be hurt. And honoring that is what we call what? A practice where you bring Ishvara in your life. You understand? Okay. What, Yuta, you had something to say?
Murdering can be, as Bhagavad Gita was
Yeah.
said, no? Bhagavad Gita could be in the for Dharma.
Exactly, but that requires a little bit of thinking. You can't indiscriminately just murder people and say, I'm doing it for Ishvara. Right. Yeah. So that it requires, again, it's Dharma, but it's a little bit bigger picture, bigger interpretation of Dharma. How else would you bring Ishvara in your life, please? Superb. Superb. Humility. What does it mean? What do you mean? Wonderful. What does it mean?
A kind of acceptance that you maybe can't grasp the whole mind, an acceptance of the intelligence of the organization. Things might happen that you don't want or expect, but you accept them, that you don't understand why.
Very good. See this, taking the result, right? We say, we have these mechanical definitions, but actually those definitions have a whole wisdom, and that's what she is describing. Taking the result with a certain amount of gratitude, understanding that then this whole big arrangement is just too intricate, too intelligent, and it cannot that when things don't happen my way, that everything is bad. You see, that is what we call humility. Humility is that even if things don't happen my way, I'm able to see this great design. And the infallibility of the design and infallibility of all the laws and the way they interact with each other to produce everything that comes to it. This is how you begin to take results with a certain amount of equanimity, because you see the infallibility of Ishvara in form of all these laws. Very good. So that means Karma Yoga, the choice of action, humility, while I go through situations of life. So I don't react, but I see this order, and therefore humility while I go through challenges and situations. You can also say equanimity. You can use different words. Certain composure. Go through challenges and results. What else can I do? You, Matthias, you had something to say?
It's like the same, I would say, depend on the fruits of your action.
Yeah, exactly. So you can you elaborate a little bit? What do you mean by not depend upon the fruit of your actions? What does it mean for you?
It's a sort of humility, so that I'm gratitude, and it's not my ability, it's the ability of Ishwara.
Very good. Things are so lovely. This is a lovely thing that it's not like you're not the author of the universe, right? That you need to understand. You can't act as though you're the author of the universe. And there is an author, and then it is putting many things intelligently, whether I understand the design and the totality or not, that it is there, right? So that is a beautiful way to also live your life, right? That you are not really, understand very deeply that you are not really in charge of everything that happens. You don't decide. There is a much bigger order which decides. Right?
And what about prayer?
Superb. See, you are all clever. Very good. Excellent. Why is a prayer needed? These are all practices. Wonderful. Why do you think you need to pray? Very good. Excellent. Now that you have said prayer, you have to answer.
So when I don't understand, or if I don't know what I have to do, I pray.
Excellent. So that means there are so many situations where you are not very clear what you have to do. Instead of pretending I know it all, understand, accept your helplessness. But you are not just resigned to your helplessness, you seek help. That is what we call proactive living. Proactive living, when you're not in a denial, you're not trying to pretend as though you're totally in charge and you know everything about what you want to do. And when you're helpless, you then seek help. Not just say, oh, I'm helpless, now what do I do? Act on it. And act on it in a proactive manner. That is what we call an act of prayer. So asking for help, where can you really ask for help? Only the place where you can really ask for help is Ishwara. And that will make you somebody who is flowing. Ultimately, you have to relax and learn to flow with the intelligence of Ishwara. Really. Otherwise, we are all operating from, I want to do this and it's my knowledge and I want to remove ignorance, and this controlling human being is a babe.
Sorry.
That means, what I mean is, the controlling human being is a pain. I have to explain. Otherwise, everybody. Okay, just let me explain, then you can ask me a question. Right? This one thing is that suppose, let me give you an easy example. Right? The easy example is, suppose that you are you want to cross the boat and you want to go across the shore. Right? And suppose you work only from, I have the skills and I have this and I can do it and I want to do it and this and that. That is how we all behave, right? Now, suppose in your life you begin to see, yes, that I have to work on my skills. Yes, I want to do it. There is nothing wrong with it. But I'm in this whole grand system and I go out and study a little bit the winds. Study a little bit the whirlpools, if it is there or not, the direction of the flow. what happens is I learn to flow and live my life intelligently using all the forces which are external to me, which are not totally under my control, but to incorporate them in my decision making and learn to flow. And suppose while I'm learning to flow, and suppose some difficulty comes, the whirlpool that I did not expect came up, right? And suppose I find myself not having enough skills, right, to negotiate that, then at the time of that helplessness, ask for help. From the same intelligent forces of which you are aware, ask for help to take your mind in the right direction. Gayatri Mantra. Gayatri Mantra is a beautiful example of a prayer where you are asking Ishwara to take your mind in the right direction, because we are so conditioned by the ignorance, we don't even know what is the right direction. And we are so constrained by our own ignorance. And we don't know how to help ourselves out of it. You need help. And the only entity that can help you is Ishwara. So that means Ishwara, bringing Ishwara in your life as a practice includes all of this. What? When you choose an action, take into account dharma. When the situations happen in your life which bring you difficulty, have a certain humility. Don't judge the world and judge the people in it and, curse everything. Understand that there is a greater side, and within that you can help yourself. Third, when you find yourself helpless, ask for help. Wonderful. Really, if you begin to live the intelligently, so much you can help yourself. Really. Narayana, you had a question?
Oh, yes, you answered already a little, but I have still, when I first time got in touch with Vedanta, I stopped praying because I didn't have any direction to pray.
Yeah.
Today, for me,
see, unfortunately, this is a presentation of Vedanta by some teachers who don't understand the importance of Ishvara. As I just explained to you, that this Ishvara is the beginning, middle and end of the pursuit. And here also it said, it's so important.
But with Ishwara you don't mean like Shiva, pray to Shiva or no?
Yeah, so that means not only you need to pray to Shiva, but you also need to understand what Shiva is, and the Veda is meant for that. Ishvara is making you see who am I, who are you, and how we are one. The Veda, the book, is meant for Ishvara, meant for you to see the truth. Through Veda, Ishvara is talking to you and making you see Ishvara and you are one.
Is Ishvara the same as the awareness that we truly are?
Wow. That's $1 million question. That requires, hopefully it will come. I don't know if it will come or not, but that's $1 million. I mean, that's where the whole teaching, it's a culmination of the whole teaching. Yeah. Right now it's not really, right now it's Kriya Yoga. So I have to restrict. You have to come to my Mundaka Upanishad class. That will solve this. That will answer this question. Okay. Lunchtime.
Yeah.
Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shanti.